Hello everyone, welcome to today's episode of 5-Minute Machine Learning. Today we're going to play with Seaborn in Python for data visualization. For today's experiment, we're going to use the MPG dataset. So we're going to import Seaborn first and then load the MPG dataset. And then the MPG dataset is basically the mile per gallon for some type of vehicles. And we have around 400 vehicles with 9 columns. We have mile per gallon, we have cylinders, horsepower, weight, origin, etc. So the first thing Seaborn can do is a dist plot. You could use it on single variable. So here we're plotting the mile per gallon. We got a histogram and along with the fitted curve with it. You can take off the curve by setting the kernel density curve off, and then you can choose the number of bins. The next you can do with Seaborn is a joined plot, where you typically use 2 variables. So here we're plotting mile per gallon versus the weight of the vehicle. The data is the MPG dataset, and we can choose the kind as the scatter. We can also choose the kind as the hex. Basically, they're plotting the same thing. It's just the representation is a little bit different. If you choose the kind to be reg, then a regression line will be fitted and plotted. The next thing Seaborn can do is to plot the relation between each pair of variables using the pair plot function. A useful trick is to use the hue argument in many of the functions. For example, if we specify hue as the cylinders, then the plot will have a color distinguishing between different number of cylinders. For categorical variables, Seaborn can do a very simple bar plot. A count plot basically is showing the same information as a bar plot. A box plot includes more information such as outliers and distributions. A stripe plot plots every single data point. A swarm plot plots the same thing as a stripe plot, but without any overlapping, so it's more visual to see the clusterings. Of course, you can apply the hue argument inside a swarm plot to make every single data point different color based on the number of cylinders. So it's more informative. Of course, you can plot a swarm plot on top of a box plot to show exactly how many data points were used for the box plot. You could also do a violin plot. Applying the hue argument on the violin plot gives you the breakdown by the cylinders. This is a swarm plot on top of a violin plot. Again, it's just showing each single data point on top of a violin plot. Next, if we look at the correlation matrix of the MPG dataset, we can plot using a heat map the correlation between each pair of variables. We can choose to show the colors and numbers based on the correlation. Next, let's do a pivot table. So we break down the mile per gallon by model year, then by cylinders. We could plot the pivot table using the same technique, the heat map. You can customize the heat map by a little bit. For example, you can add lines between each blocks. You can specify the line color as white, and you can choose the color theme. You can do a regression plot. So here we're plotting the mile per gallon against the vehicle's weight. A negative relationship is what we expect. You can break down the relationship by adding a hue argument there. So here we're plotting 3 regression plots by the origin. Of course, you can specify the markers and colors you use for each regression plot. You could also separately plot the regression plot. Last but not least, although it's kind of hard to see here, but you can combine the hue argument and the regression plot together so that you can see in each of the regression plot you have your little breakdown by cylinders. Alright, I hope you enjoyed today's short episode of the Seaborn visualization, and as always, have a nice day.